Anastasia, you were in Izyum for a while, and
Mm.
you saw some of the horrible things that people have been reporting about and telling us about. And would you please share with us some of the things that you saw?
Actually, I was in Izyum in this place where we found massive graves. It's more than 400 numbers or graves. We can tell like this because, I mean, why I'm called like this because, for example, in one graves we found 17 bodies. It was a grave of Ukrainian soldiers, and on this it was Christ on this grave, and on this Christ, like this pencil was writing that 17 bodies, Ukrainian soldiers from museum, and we found the in one grave. Another graves, it mostly it's like one body in one grave, but now only exhumate 146 bodies from these massive graves, and still more than 300 we are waiting. Today, for example, authorities found two bodies of children, and also yesterday it was they was exhumed one man. Probably it was civilian because without uniform, without army uniform, but he was with cut testicles. I mean, yeah, it means that he was tortured, and maybe he was died because of this, because of this torture. When we were there, we found two bodies of soldiers, probably soldiers because they were in uniform, with tied hands, and one civilian also with tied hands, like behind.
Yeah.
And also the police saw that they were tortured and maybe they were executed,
Yeah.
and because of this. And
Yeah.
other bodies, mostly it's people who were killed because of air raids and shrapnels and artillery strikes, like 95% of them.
Yeah. Nastya, um, how are the people in that area responding now that the Russian troops have been driven away and the Ukrainian troops are there and they seem to be safer now, or at least safe for now that the Russian troops have gone away? How are the people in that city or town responding?
You know, we came to Izyum. We were the first journalists who came to Izyum, liberated Izyum, retaken Izyum, after the soldiers. I can tell like this, and for me, it was so much different emotions because I saw hope. I saw how people happy because of this. It's true. You can see my report how they are like smile, but on another hand, they told us just horrible things about relatives who were killed by air raids, or neighbors who were killed and destroyed homes because Izium very destroyed town, like on 80% maybe. I think that it's most destroyed town after Mariupol maybe, because but we can't understand what's happened in Mariupol because we are not there. But we came to Izium and saw it's horrible what's happened there. But on the other hand, they are happy that they are liberated, and it's so much different emotions because and after you see this massive graves and people told us how like Russians hated them. And for example, one guy, he was owner of the small product shop, and he told us that 8 times Russian try to stolen something from this shop, and he was beaten with them, and they told that they will kill him and everything, you know. And yeah, it's very different emotions on the same time with the same people, but it's so much about hopes. They told us, for example, that, you know, we are free people, we are free Ukrainian people, and for us, like, going in some hours only, because it was only some hours when you can go on the streets during the day, or like going there, not going in that way. It's something very strange for us, because we are free people. We tell what we want. We like, we can't be not like this. But for Russians told us that we should be quiet, we should don't go on the streets and everything. And for them, it was very strange to live like this.
So, the Russian troops left, but they're probably not very far away. Do you
25 kilometers, something like this, 25 in different places from Izyum.
Do you think that there is a possibility that they will try to return? Has there been any evidence or anything to suggest that they might try to come back?
Now I think that no, and till, I don't know, winter, till the new year, it's impossible. I will tell you more, that I was, for example, in another town in Kupiansk. It's also not very small town in the northeast, not very far away from Ukrainian-Russian border, also in Kharkiv region. And now it's a front line, this town on the front line. And there is the river, Oskol River, and now this is like mostly the front line, like river. It's a border between Russian troops and Ukrainian troops, and in some places Ukrainian troops crossed the river already. And now it's a counter-offensive operation of Ukrainian troops are going and going and going, and they move. And maybe they will go to Luhansk region. I mean, that now Russian troops are in the position that they should stop Ukrainian troops somehow, because it's Ukrainian troops are moving there in Kharkiv region. That I think that it's impossible, because they can't do anything with Ukrainian troops there. And for them, it's very important to, for example, to stay in Donetsk region, because like Putin and like Lavrov, Shoigu, and others, Russian authorities, they told that they liberated Donbass. Yes, and now it's a like, this is the like fast reason why they started this. And now Ukrainian troops also liberated a couple of villages in Donetsk region already. It's not far away from Izyum. And maybe they will liberate like a couple of days Liman. It's a town already in Donetsk region. And like for Russian troops, it's more important to save their positions in Donetsk region, of course.
Do you think that there are other towns or other cities like Izyum and Bucha where these atrocities have taken place that haven't been found yet?
We already know some information, for example, about the same Kupiansk, but as I already mentioned, it's now it's a front line. That's why it's not very easy to find all these prisons, because it's shelling all the time. But yeah, we have some evidence that it was some prisons, it was some cemetery also there, and in another like small and big villages in Kharkiv region. But I think that we will see something terrible also in Kherson. But now it's under occupation. That's why we only hear something, but don't see already.
Have you ever witnessed anything like this before? You seem to be fairly young, and I'm not sure how much experience you have covering wars, but have you ever seen anything like what you saw in Izyum?
We saw this in Bucha. I think the Bucha is more terrible than Izyum, because we saw, like, I don't know what we will find more in Izyum and other towns and villages, but in Bucha we found many bodies which were executed, you know, just shot in their heads and something like this. But I covered in Ukrainian war from the beginning, from 2014, from Donbass and from Crimea, and I was covering also the shooting in Maidan in the winter in 2014. It was also terrible because police just shot 88 people during 1 hour, you know, in one street, and it was just horrible. After this, I can't say that, you know, something touched me so much.
Yeah. So back to the situation in Izyum, I've heard that there are some pretty terrible torture centers, a number of different places where people were taken. Have you seen any of these places?
Prisons, no. We were on this cemetery, and we were in the town, but not. Another, my colleague, she is covering this situation with tortured and victims and everything. I mostly covering the front line with the army, with troops. You know that it's not my topic. We were there just because we were there first group with the soldiers. We came to the city like after the soldiers, but now another groups of journalists are working with this topic. But I know that it's like 6 prisons already were found in Izyum and in other towns also.
All right. So what is the next step in this process for the Ukrainian military? What are they going to do next? Because, you know, what we've seen here from the U.S. perspective and talking with some folks like yourself that are there, the Ukrainian offensive seems to be slowing down. So what do we expect next from them?
The president yesterday told that it's not slowing down. They prepared to the next counteroffensive operation. They are not stopped. They just prepare. It was the Zelensky words, and I see some preparation on the south. For example, we see that on the right bank of Dnipro River in Kherson region, where is Kherson also, that the situation for Russians are very bad there because bridges are destroyed, problem with logistic for them, and that's why I think that maybe a couple of weeks and Kherson will be retaken by Ukrainian army. But it's my opinion. It's not like, but I think that it's very possible. My father-in-law actually takes part in this counteroffensive operation as a soldier. That's why I know some information from the first hands.
Yeah. So you know what's happening. You're the best source of information then.
Something I know, of course, but I can't tell everything, of course, and I don't see everything. But of course, I know something. But not only in the south, as I told you, Donbass also. I think that Liman also can be retaken. This city was occupied in the 1st of June, as I remember it.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you one more thing then. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you think is important that we should know about this situation that's unfolding in Ukraine?
What is important very much, it's that Ukraine needs more heavy weapon, of course, because for us it's we see this counteroffensive operation, for example, in Kharkiv, how it was how successful it was, but we don't know yet how many people were died in this counteroffensive operation. I mean, from Ukrainian side also. And for example, I told you about Liman, which was occupied in 1st of June. It was a terrible situation for Ukrainian army at that time because we didn't have artillery. near 500 soldiers were killed every day at the time, before heavy weapon came to Ukraine, to the front line. And for us, it's about people's lives, everyday people lives. I have 1 year old and 1 year, 9 months old son. And I took him to my parents' house on 21st of February, like on the first day of invasion, because we live with my family in Kiev, and of course we couldn't stay in Kiev in that time. And now he is still with my parents and with my husband, and I am on the front line from 25th of February, from the second day of invasion. And I can't see him very often. I'm mostly on the front line, and actually I very miss him. And sometimes I think that it's not good thing to be on the front line, because if something will happen with me, he will be without mother. But for me, it's also very important to cover the war. Not many Ukrainian journalists can cover the war because men, I mean war correspondent men, they came to the war now as soldiers, and it's very important to have this Ukrainian voice of what happened on the front line, not only CNN or New York Times or Washington Post, but Ukrainian voice also important, because the war is in our country. And for example, I told you that my father-in-law is on the front line, and many friends are on the front line, and we understand what the price is of everything and covering the war also.
Well, I'm so glad you told me that story, Nastya, because your voice is more important than a New York Times voice or a CNN voice.
I agree with you.
The most important voice in this war, in this situation right now. So thank you for sacrificing. I wish you the best. I hope you're safe and can return to your son and your whole family reunited at some point. Thank you.
Thank you.